Hello guys, and Putin has a lot of problems not just with the Russian economy, destroyed oil industry or failing air defense, but also with his soldiers and in particular veterans. Putin is very much afraid of them. And by the way, that's one of the main reasons why he will never agree to end this war as long as he exists. At the beginning of the full-scale invasion, before it became apparent that's a failed blitzkrieg, Putin and the Kremlin organized the program Time of Heroes. And it was meant to integrate the veterans of the so-called special military operation into government and administrative positions in the various regions of the Russian Federation. And those war criminal veterans started joining the program. So Putin became extremely frightened they can shift his influence and ban them doing this. Right now, all the Russian veterans are ordered to write that they won't join the program and send screenshots to their commanders. Otherwise, they will be conscripted again and sent to the meat grinders. All of this happens with problems for the real records of the Russian army because more and more regions far from Moscow don't have enough money and they actually cut these payments. So you have to understand that most of the Russian soldiers are on the front lines, are invaders and war criminals just for the money. They are not ideological fighters, they don't defend their motherland, they are to earn money, to loot, and all of that stuff. And when they stop earning money, they are worried and they go and protest in those regions like Altai, Sakha, Tatarstan, Chuvashia. But regional governments are also angry because they don't have the resources to pay these soldiers for the bloody Putin's dreams. And with this lack of money and more economic problems amassing, the Kremlin is prepared to control all the cards of all the Russians. You have to understand, we're not talking about bank knowing its clients and the number of cards a client possesses, but the Kremlin having all the information about all the cards each Russian has. That's unbelievable and actually returns us back to the times of Stalin, I guess. And yes, one more Russian oil refinery destroyed in Saratov, actually the oldest one. It's burning pretty well. So let's discuss what is happening inside this house of cards known as the Russian Federation. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat and demilitarization of the Russian Federation, that has already started, subscribe and share these videos to spread the truth. That's important because many people still care about the conversation that may happen between Trump and Putin in Budapest. Orban is super happy. The location is very wrong because here in Ukraine, the very first association we have with Budapest is Budapest Memorandum, and you know, these are all broken promises, but the real war takes place inside Russia now. That is a great change. We suffer a lot. They shell us. They want to create lots of problems inside Ukraine, but they won't break us. We can destroy everything by targeting the Russian economy and by, causing problems to the Putin's regime. And we observe it with the payments for the Russian soldiers. Lots of Russian regions, and remember that Russia is not like the Russian Federation is not a homogeneous country. It consists of lots of republics that once wanted to be independent. I have reported recently about serious problems in the Far East, in Altai, in Sakha, and now these very same regions, Sakha, Altai, Chuvashia, Tatarstan, Far East, like Vladivostok, are paying and spending less money on the Russian war records. So the Ministry of Attack of the Russian Federation promises one sum and then they receive less. So they are super angry, they go out on protest, their families write to the Kremlin or to the regional governments, once again proving this war is for them to earn money and to, demonstrate the violence. And they do not receive any answers, plus these regional governments and administrations are super angry because they don't have resources to pay them. And the attitude to the Russian soldiers is very negative inside their society, well, because because they return home very angry, very aggressive, very often with a totally changed opinion about the state of Russia, the state of the Russian army, because, they all brought their holiday festive uniform at the beginning of the full-scale invasion, and now we observe them on the donkeys. So lots of plans failed, and on the front lines, now not only in Ukraine, but also in Russia, they understand it better. And they don't have any programs for the integration of these people. They had one Times of Heroes, and it was meant to integrate veterans into government and administrative positions, and some actually started joining, wanted to become deputies of those small administrations and to change something inside Russia. And Putin became extremely frightened, and now there is an order that they have to decline any offers to join this program. They cannot close it openly, but they ban soldiers and veterans from joining it, and they are even made to screenshot their denials and send to commanders, because otherwise they will send them to the front lines. And you have to understand that now more and more Russian soldiers understand that this is a death sentence. Well, they all have a choice. They have to stop joining the Russian army and to try and clean the house inside their own borders. Subscribe to witness the collapse of the Kremlin together. That is coming. Trust me, we all know that. And I think that even the White House understands that. So, one of the largest, if actually not the largest Russian employer, Russian railroads, announced massive layoffs to, correspond, let their human resources correspond to their demands. But that's a proof they have serious financial problems. And actually, they are among the greatest debtors among the Russian companies. Just imagine, Gazprom, Rosneft, Russian railroads, symbols of the abnormal Russian wealth, are now on the list of debtors in the Russian Forbes. Yes, Russian Forbes does not have lists of billionaires, but has a list of debtors. And a lot of people are worried because that's symbolic. And once again, we are talking about the largest Russian employer, a state company that cannot afford having people anymore. They believe some may join the army, but the level of willingness to join the Russian armed forces fell dramatically, and not only because of the falling payments, but also because of the reality they discovered after this failed blitzkrieg that lasts for 4 years, with now lots of war zones inside the Russian Federation, like Saratov. Oil refinery was destroyed there. I do not report about the destruction of oil facilities every day, because this literally happens every day. But you can see that the gasoline crisis is growing, the problems inside Russia are amassing, and that are the consequences of our favorite Russian geography lessons. And with these economic problems amassing, with the stagnation, recession, growing inflation, and the fact that more and more Russian state institutions understand that they are not all mad, they are evil, they are aggressive, they are very subordinate, but they are not all mad, and they see the problems of the Russian budget, the problem of the income. They understand that these new tax programs, increasing of that, lowering the threshold of VAT, this does not save the situation, and they think about other ways to control money inside the country. That's why actually Russians during this 6 months withdraw 1 trillion rubles from their deposits, and you can guess why. Because they know the reality inside the Russian Federation, that they sense their collapse is coming. And that's why the Kremlin wants to keep all bank cards of the ordinary Russians under their direct control. And here I have to attract your attention to this fact. We're not talking about bank identifying you, knowing your, address or what are you doing or your income, even though it's a closed information. But we're talking about government having access to all of that. Of course, they describe it as a way to protect banks from different fraud, but they simply want to control all the money inside the country, literally getting into the pocket of each Russian that so desperately liked the idea of the blitzkrieg and now enjoy this prolonged war that finally returned back home to Russia where it belongs. And the list of Putin's failures is only growing longer. Check it in my new video on Anna Danilchuk channel. And remember that we have a date this Saturday, 9 p.m. Kyiv time. Follow me on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, and join our amazing Discord community. Same as check our merch shop for new t-shirts, hoodies, and caps that remind people about our fight and the need to defeat the evil. Become Ukrainian ambassadors. You will find all the links you need in the description of this video. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel, but most importantly, thank you for being friends of mine and friends of Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!